Okay, this screencast is going to start with the war in Europe. As soon as Roosevelt and the United States were prepared to join this war effort, Roosevelt and Churchill met up again. And we've already talked about one meeting they've had. Well, now they're having another one, and they pretty much decide that Hitler and his threat, the Axis threat in Europe, is the top priority. Even though obviously the U.S. is mad at Japan and wants to act aggressively to get revenge against Japan, Hitler's just a more immediate threat, and so they're going to work together to defeat the Axis in Europe first, and then put all of their resources into defeating Japan. So the first place they're going to target is the Atlantic Ocean. We talked about the German wolf packs being very aggressive in the Atlantic, preying upon merchant ships that were carrying weapons to any of the Allies, and they're hoping to prevent not only weapons but also other resources make it to the civilians of those Allied countries. So just like in World War I, the Americans are going to start working together to use the convoy system, in which all merchant ships are escorted by U.S. military destroyers. And this is going to be very successful in keeping the attack of the German submarines down to a minimum. Also, we have a new invention to help defend against any sort of U-boat attack or German Wolfpack attack. Just like we have radar for the sky, we now have the invention of sonar, which was used to detect ships that are underwater, so submarines. So before too long, the Battle of the Atlantic, just the fighting in the water, is being won by the Allies, and the United States and Great Britain are able to get a grip on the ships that are traveling to and from the various Allied countries in the Atlantic Ocean. So once we have a clear point to sail from, we're now going to turn our attention to North Africa, because just like what Churchill felt, we want to use North Africa as a launching point for an invasion of Italy eventually. The North African campaign is coded as Operation Torch, and this was led by, on the U.S. front, American General and future President Dwight Eisenhower. And the whole point of the campaign is to basically invade those North African countries that are Axis controlled and rid them of Axis powers. After about a month of Eisenhower and his troops landing in North Africa, they were actually able to force all of Rommel's Afrika Korps into surrender. And just for perspective, this is about May of 1943, so a full year plus after Pearl Harbor, but we have successfully kind of conquered the north portion of Africa and are ready to invade Italy. Pretty much the victory in North Africa is going to lead directly to our campaign in Italy. They want to invade Italy and then cut through to attack Germany from the south. They are quickly able to first launch an attack, the Allies are, on the Italian island of Sicily, which sits right below Italy. And kind of while this is happening, the Italian government's kind of going through a coup, and the Italian people actually force Mussolini out of power and force him to resign. And the Italians are essentially kind of in a bit of a cluster, and they're in chaos. There's political disorder. They don't know who's in charge. They don't know what orders to follow. They don't know what their next steps are. They're thinking they for sure have lost this war in Italy, as the Allies are on their way. But Hitler did begin sending German troops from the north, into Italy, trying to keep the Allies as far south as possible. Hitler is not wanting the Allies to be successful in invading Germany from the south. But we will be able to defeat, Italy is kind of distracted, a bit discombobulated, but we will defeat the Germans in Italy after some time, and Italy is completely free now of the Axis powers. Obviously, they were an enemy, but you have to understand that, again, it's kind of a time of political turmoil for Italy. They're not all even wanting to be in the war. Not all the citizens were on board, so they will not be held to the same accountability that, Hitler will be held to, obviously, and the Nazis in Germany, as they are the primary aggressors of this war in Europe. But we are so far we've discussed, we've been able to take control of North Africa. We have used that as a launching point to successfully invade and capture Italy. We'll continue notes tomorrow with our continuation of the war, but first, one last note here about the combat in Italy. One group emerged as heroes, and that is the Tuskegee Airmen. They are members of the all-black 99th Pursuit Squadron, which is just, Air Force terms, but they will fight for the Allies. They are an all-black pilot group, and they will be very successful at fighting against the German Luftwaffe in the Italian campaign, and they received very high awards and recognition for this success, as they were so incredibly successful in their combat. So, and because they're all minorities, we can honor and recognize them for that. And these types of success are what will push African Americans even further into being brave enough to ask for equality back at home, since they're fighting so bravely and nobly in the war abroad. Okay, if you have any questions, please write them down. We'll wrap up with these ideas tomorrow and move on. Hope you'll have a good day.